Okay, it's 11:30. The inquiry is resumed. Mr. Bird, would you like to continue, please? Thank you.
So, Dix, if we just go first, please, to your main proof of evidence on page 26. And paragraph 4.23, we see there set out the junctions included in the VISM model, don't we? Yeah, page 26 of the hard copy, madam. 27, thank you, Mr. Freeman. 4.23.
So I'm just going to, yes.
Good. And nothing, therefore, further to the west included?
No.
Okay. And again, if we can just agree some facts here, we can go to CD 285A, which is the supplementary transport assessment.
Yes.
And go within that to page 68. Start.
Yes, I'm there.
See, that was the A4155 Chapel Street, B482 Dean Street, A4155 Marlow Road, roundabout junction referred to.
So,
I'm on the top of page 68, PDF 68, madam. In
sorry.
beg your pardon, so I switched there, cunningly switched from paper to PDF.
Yes, I'm with you. Yeah.
Top of the page. This
Yes.
just to put it in context there. So this is the junction to the west of Wickham Road.
Yep.
And we can see if we go within this, please, to 5.126.
Yes.
We can see this is a junction which is impacted by queuing set out here, which extends back from the downstream junctions during peak periods and does not therefore always operate as a standalone junction.
I was going to say, thank you, Mr. White. It actually says occasionally impacted.
That's fine. Sorry, it's 5.126.
In which document?
It's CD 285A, madam, page PDF 70.
Sorry.
Apologize, no, that's probably my fault.
It said something to do with transport. Right.
Page 70.
PDF page 70.
It is, yes.
So it's page 62 on the actual paper.
That is correct, madam.
Okay, thank you.
Checking that's correct. And it was, in terms of the reference 5.126, which refers to the occasionally impacted by queuing, which extends back from the downstream junctions during peak periods, therefore does not always operate as a standalone junction.
It says that, but that must be read in the context of the paragraph above, because obviously this junction has been modelled as an individual junction. The paragraph above explains that as a result of that, it's not considered there'd be a severe impact. And then 126, it does acknowledge that occasionally it's impacted by queuing. It extends back from downstream junctions.
Yes, well, let's just go to CD 3.10 just to see the extent of the queuing, which is a highway response to the STA.
Remarkably, I'm there very quickly.
Oh, good. Well, when you are there, go to page 43. Probably because it's a Word document, it comes up more quickly. It's page 43 in the document, madam, which refers back to the STA. And it then sets out the extent of the queuing which the survey identified and the model, the model queued. Is that right? observed and modelled, which shows an observed queue of 46 in the table in the AM peak, doesn't it?
It does, but you've actually got to look at the table and how long that model queue occurs for and things like that. But yes, it's always been accepted that the models don't reflect exactly what's happening at those junctions all the time, because you get some interaction.
Yes.
But we'd come back to what we talked about yesterday when we're looking at this, and I think it's an important context for me to give. By the time you get down here, you've only got 20 vehicles. Obviously, the issue that's always been raised is with the congestion into Marlow. The film studios only adds 20 vehicles to that.
Yes, well, let's just agree a number of points here. First, in terms of this model not being calibrated, has it?
No.
No. And as far as the 46 is concerned, that would be a queue of what in terms of distance? Mr. Tester has assessed at about 230 metres.
If he's assessed it with 5.5 per vehicle, I wouldn't dispute that. And he nodded just there.
Oh, right. Well, there we are. Good. I can't look to my right. Can't multitask in that way. And if we go to page 44 of this same document, we can see that in terms of the queue, it's fairly consistent across the peak hour, can't we?
Yes, on Chapel Street, where the film studios adds 1 or 2 vehicles. I haven't got the exact figure. That isn't. Yeah, that's not on. So that's coming the other way, and it's. We've always been talking about the congestion coming into town.
Yeah, but that's the westbound queue. Chapel Street, Lane 1.
I'll have to say this was a queue survey done some time ago, and having driven through the junction a lot, going backwards and forwards at the hotel, I've never seen a queue like this. But it was there at the time of the survey. Yeah. So I'm not disputing it was there.
And it's a 2023 survey, isn't it?
I just said I don't dispute I can't dispute the survey, but I don't recognise those levels of conditions. But
sorry, the paragraph above says the survey shows continuous queuing in both peak hours over 46 vehicles on the Chapel Street eastern arm. So which way is it going?
It's westbound. That's the
so
east
it's going
arm
the traffic travelling west towards Marlow.
Yeah.
Just so I'm clear. Thank you.
That's. And again, the inspector has been on site and knows the distance between this junction and Wickham Road. But the junction between the distance between Wickham Road and Bobmore Lane is what in terms of distance?
The distance between I did do some measurements of this because I thought I would be asked. So if I'm looking at a pad, it's because I did some measurements last night.
One you prepared earlier.
Yes. I've got the distance of Dean Street to Bobmore Lane at 910 metres.
Yeah.
And then the distance back to Westhorpe just is nearly a mile from this junction. I've got it as 1585.
Okay.
And those measurements, they might be a metre or 2 out because they were just done with Google Earth. I would accept that, but they're not. I didn't go out with a wheel and measure them. No.
Very remiss of you. Just staying with core document 2.85, let's also look at the High Street West Street junction, please. So let's say staying with, go back to CD 285A. And within that document, it's page 72, I believe.
Sorry, CD2.
I want to go to 5.134 in CD 285A, 2/85A.
Bear with me just a second. Yes, I'm in the document. Which paragraph?
It's 5.134, but if you just wanted to look first at 5.127, just to see that we're looking at the A4155 Marlow Road High Street, A4155 West Street mini roundabout, we can see that a similar conclusion is reached in relation to that junction as in relation to the Dean Street roundabout, namely that this junction is occasionally impacted by queuing, which extends back from downstream junctions during peak periods and therefore does not always operate as a standalone junction, can't we?
Again, it's occasionally affected by queuing caused by other factors, yes.
Yeah, which queues all the way back, doesn't it, beyond Wickham Road?
Again, but in respect to that junction, if that's the High Street junction,
Answer the question first, and then you can
I
add a caveat.
accepted that occasionally there is queuing at that junction beyond what the model has replicated. I'll let the inspector make up her mind about the distance of it. The survey is there from that moment in time. It's not a survey. It's not the length of queue I've experienced.
Okay. Then if we can go to CD 2105A, which is the second supplementary transport assessment. And when you have that, go to paragraph 4.32, which is in the hard copy, page 29. Thank you very much.
So, sorry, what paragraph did you want me to go?
4.32.
Yep.
Just to see whether or not you agree or disagree with the first sentence of 4.32.
I don't disagree that there are a number of factors as you come into Marlow that affect queuing. I think what happened after this document was written, we spent more time, and when I say we, I mean SLR spent more time looking at the queuing coming into Marlow, and that's when we identified the issues at the Bobmore Lane crossing, which aren't identified here.
But those problems don't, do they?
Sorry?
Those problems do not cause the congestion at the junctions further west, do they? Because the Bobmore Lane junction effectively
No,
acts as a constraint to traffic reaching those junctions.
And I've already accepted that there are the junctions in the high street, in the town centre, if you like, area, the two mini roundabouts. There are things that occasionally lead to longer queues at those roundabouts than the models have presented. But I did caveat that by saying that's an existing issue, and it questions where we have a severe impact, and we look at the amount of traffic coming from the film studios going to those junctions.
And then if we look at 9.12, the same document, so this is page 42 in the hard copy, so paragraph 9.12. Yep.
I'm sorry, CD 912.
No, paragraph 9.12. Sorry, did you say CD? I'm sorry, madam, I thought you said it's paragraph 9.
Sorry, I then jumped out of the document. I'm going back in.
Yes, we're still the same document. Apologies, that's my fault.
Sorry, I'm nearly there. Have we got a page number? Just 42.
The hard copy, 42. 50. Thank you very much, Mr. Fraser.
Thank you. Paragraph 912, you say?
Yes, 9.12. Just
Yep.
whether there's anything you disagree with in the first two sentences of that paragraph.
No, I think that's where there are town centre activities that affect the operation of this junction.
And in order to judge the severity of the effects of any additional traffic, you need to understand, don't you, the interactions between the junction.
Well, I know you're not going to like me doing this, but if I'd like to take you to the committee report that I do comment on in my evidence when the council drew its conclusions on these junctions in terms of which supersede this document, so it's a move on in time, and what the council said. And we can go to the document if you want me to. I can take you there, or I can just
to add your rider to the answer, so you carry on.
Yeah, well, I'm not putting a rider to the answers. I'm actually giving evidence to the inspector to explain where the position that was reached on these junctions, because there was a degree of agreement from the council with us. So it's appropriate that we reflect the correct moment in time we are now, not something that's slightly historical. Sorry, ma'am, just bear with me on.
We're going to your proof.
We're going to my proof.
Right.
Sorry, just bear with me and I will. If I take to my proof, the council's view on these junctions was expressed in the committee report. This is the second report that when the application was actually determined. So paragraph 14.9 of that committee report included a series of bullet points which went through the junctions outside the VISIM model that had been assessed. And on the High Street, West Street, it's paragraph 14.9. And it's the fifth bullet point under this, which relates to the High Street, West Street mini roundabout. And I haven't got the full quote up in front of me, but yeah, 14.90, sorry, 14.90. Yeah, 90, sorry, 90. Fifth bullet point down, it should have the title Marlow Road, the High Street, West Street. They said in there that the council actually said there was unlikely to be a material impact and they're not going to pursue this any further. And they said that about this junction. They said it about the Wickham Road junction, which is also in there. And they said about the Glade Road junction. The only junction where they'd still got concern was Dean Street, Chapel Road, which is why I've always been surprised that this has been raised as an issue now, because it's different to how it was presented in the committee report.
Yes, but of course there's been a significant change in the appellant's position in relation to the Bobmore Lane crossing, hasn't there?
But that makes no difference, because as I explained in evidence in chief, we did look at, after that concern had been raised by Mr. Tester, we looked at the individual junction models that had been done. We looked at how what traffic had gone in those models, and those models are more robust than the VISIM model. And if you look at the distances between those junctions and how far they are away from Bobmore Lane, they're not going to have any impact. So we would still be saying that our individual junction models show no impact.
Let's just deal with it in stages. As far as the baseline position in relation to those junctions, we've agreed that that's set out in the observed, isn't it, data that we've referred to.
In terms of that survey shows, as I've accepted, that occasionally there is queuing beyond what the individual junction models project.
Good. We're also agreed in terms of the distances between the junctions. The inspector has that and can judge for herself. And we need to put that in context, don't we, in terms of what your VISIM modelling has shown over time. And if we go first, please, to 419 of your proof, page 26. The only change made in the November modelling was to incorporate mover into the VISIM model, and also to more accurately reflect the implications of the use of the pedestrian crossing on Little Marlow.
At Bobmore Lane, yes.
Yes, good. And the previous iteration of the model showed, again, just dealing with the facts at this stage, in the do-nothing world, extensive queuing from within Marlow to the model extent, didn't it?
It did, yes.
Yes, and let's just look at that. We had core document 9.10, which is appended to Mr. Tester's evidence. There's an Atkins Realis technical note. Core document 9.10, page 4 of the document, figure 3.2. It should have 0831, 831 in the bottom left-hand corner. Have that, Mr. Dix?
It's coming.
Right.
Yes, I'm in the document. Sorry, what was
Good.
referenced?
It's figure 3.2 on page 4, which shows the queue, doesn't it, extending west into Marlow, all the way across the Westthorpe interchange, and then beyond the model extent to the east.
Yes.
Right.
That's in the superseded model, yes.
Yeah, well, to understand it, in terms of the superseded model, we've seen the two changes made to it.
Yes.
Right. Again, staying with the position at that point of time, if we go to core document 9.8, also appended to Mr. Tester's evidence. Another technical note from Atkins Realis, this term, the 16th of April 2024.
Yes, on there.
And figure 2.3 this time on page 9. Even in the 2034 managed scenario, and although we don't see the full extent, the same extent as we saw in the earlier technical note, we see queuing all the way from within Marlow across the junction on the A4155, don't we?
No, I'm sorry, that's not right, because if you, sorry, I'm peering because my eyesight's not that great. If you look at all of the coloured blobs are obviously vehicles. If you start to look at Parkway, as you look at to the west of the roundabout, you can see there are gaps in the vehicles. So it's not a constant queue. There is queuing, and I do accept there is queuing, but it's certainly not coming all the way out of Marlow on that diagram.
Well, just go to page 8, previous page, please, just to see what was shown in the data. We can see, I think in the third bullet point on page 8, referring to the SSTA, so the second supplementary transport assessment is quoted, paragraph 424 is in that document. In the AM 2034 peak, the maximum westbound queue is forecast to increase from 38 PCU to between 127 and 129 PCU. This includes around 8 PCU of keep clear around the roundabout, which is not strictly a queue. Average 2034 delay is forecast to increase from 38 seconds to 87 to 91 seconds, depending on the scenario. Then says the increase in queue to 129 PCUs, 730 meters, extends back to the start of the model entry link and actually causes latent demand 20 to 60 vehicles that are unable to enter the network at the end of the AM peak hour. 60 vehicles are equivalent to an additional queue of 345.
That's what it said about the superseded model, yes.
Yes.
It's one reason the model's been
Well,
superseded.
forgive me. So over a kilometre of queuing at that point of time to the the east of the junction.
I accept that there was a queue in the model of 129 and 730 metres. I cannot comment on, as I sit here, on the additional 60 vehicles and the latent demand. That is something that Atkins put forward in the superseded, but these are results from a superseded model.
Well, as far as the queue between the Westthorpe interchange and the Bobmore Lane junction, what did the model show at that point of time?
I'll be honest, I don't know, because it's not something I prepared for the inquiry, because I'm not looking at a superseded model anymore.
So you haven't looked to see whether it was queuing
No,
down to Bobmore Lane and beyond Bobmore Lane? Have you?
We prepared, the reason we prepared an updated model was because of the concerns that were expressed like this. We had National Highways and the council had asked us to put mover into the model. We'd also then looked at what was happening at Bobmore Lane, because we had this queuing issue that we're discussing now within the model. So we took all that on board and prepared a new model. So at that stage, once we got a revised model that National Highways have signed off and their consultants, and I believe Atkins Realis had signed off, we'd moved things forward from this position. So I'm struggling to understand why we're going back over.
Well,
it's a history lesson for the inspector.
No, it's not a history lesson for the inspector, is it? Because effectively, the only change to the model, relevant changes to the model, of introduction of mover and how the Bobmore Lane pedestrian crossing has been modelled, aren't they?
Yes, and it's but that has shown that it addressed this issue, and that's been signed off by National Highways and their consultants. And also, I gave the quote in evidence in chief that Atkins Realis had given, that they said it was a more robust model.
Well,
so I'm
forgive me,
floundering a bit to understand
No.
why we're going back to a history lesson.
No. What you haven't addressed is the interaction between the queue that was modelled in this earlier work and the interaction with the congested junctions further into the town centre, have you?
But we've only got, when we get to Westthorpe interchange, and it's not in dispute, it's less than 20 vehicles from the film studios join the back of that queue. Sorry, it wouldn't be a queue in the future. The back of the existing queue. Let me correct myself.
Right.
So they go down that exit. So we've only got 20 vehicles going down that exit in the AM peak. And the AM peak, the only criticism that's been levelled at us is in the AM peak and traffic going into Marlow. Yes, that's what I understand is in dispute.
You say sorry, I thought he had.
And we only have 20 vehicles going down there. So we didn't see the need to extend the VISIN model any further than the Bobmore Lane junction. Those other junctions are also quite a distance from the Bobmore Lane junction, and the inspector can see that, and they're not interfering with the operation of the A414. So it was around the Bobmore Lane crossing, and the school was blocking back and affecting how Westthorpe interchange worked. The town centre junctions don't affect how Westthorpe interchange works.
Well, forgive me, let's just still break this down. As far as the queue from Bobmore Lane back across the extent of the modelled area, together with the latent demand, effectively is a queue length of about 1.7 kilometres, isn't it? 1.745 kilometres.
But you're then assuming
you can add anything you like after that.
I said to you, I would accept the queue, but the queue is also on the A414 to the east of Westthorpe interchange. So you've also got to consider what happens when that traffic hits Westthorpe interchange. The queue is there, this side of the junction. As it goes into the junction, the traffic spreads. It doesn't all go straight on by any means. And this is where I'm struggling slightly to understand. You're asking me about a queue over here, how it affects junctions over there.
I'm asking you about the queue. Effectively, the queue that you identified in the earlier modelling is between Bobmore Lane Junction and the extent of the modelled area.
Yes.
From west to east across the modelled area, 1.745 kilometres if one includes within that the latent demand,
Well, I'm,
West to east,
west to east. And just the length, madam, I do.
right, just the length.
Yes, just the length.
Bob my line that way.
Yeah.
That helps. That's how I do it in my mind. And as I said to you, I didn't accept the calculation of the latent demand because I don't know. I haven't got the figures in front of me to do that. I accepted that there was a queue of 129 from Bobmore Lane through Westhorpe Interchange onto the 4155 to the east of Westhorpe Interchange. What I'm struggling to do, because you were talking to me about the town centre junctions, is to understand what this has got to do with junctions that are a lot further west than Bobmore Lane.
Well,
It doesn't make any sense. And
forgive me.
I'm struggling to answer your questions because I don't understand.
Forgive me. We know, Dave, as a matter of fact, that those junctions queue back. Those town centre junctions queue back along the A4155.
They don't queue back to Bobmore Lane though. This is what I don't understand. You know, Dean Street mini roundabout is 910 metres from Bobmore Lane. So are you suggesting to me that there's a queue from Dean Street mini roundabout all the way back to Bobmore Lane?
What you haven't modelled is it, in terms of the junctions to the west, what the effect of the introduction of the signal control of the Bobmore Lane junction would be on the interaction between them.
No, but we've modelled the models we've done, and it's presented in my evidence. They've got more traffic in them because, and you heard me explain this to the inspector in evidence in chief, a VISIM model assigns the traffic it can, and you do get some latent demand on congested networks. We've done a manual assessment, so we've taken all the traffic all the way through. We also looked at what had gone into the individual traffic models, and it's higher on the A404 in the morning peak than what's coming out of the VISIM model. Yeah. So they are therefore a worst case. Yes, I accept, and I have accepted that on those junctions that the individual junction models don't always reflect what's happening because you do get occasionally longer queues.
Oh, forgive me.
No, I haven't finished, sorry.
Right.
And the council's position was that there wasn't a material impact at those junctions. Forget whether the VISIM model's there or not. It's about the level of traffic that affects those junctions. Yeah. So it's a change in position from the council. And I don't believe there's any interaction whatsoever between how the town centre operates and how Westhorpe Interchange operates. And there's no analysis to show that.
Well, forgive me, as far as Arcady is concerned, it doesn't, does it take into account blocking, does it?
It doesn't, no.
No.
But in the Arcady models, we used a peak traffic profile rather than assuming everything was flat. And the one thing the Bobmore Lane signals will do is flatten out the arrival profile.
And you have not calibrated the model, have you?
No.
No. Good. Okay. Then I think as far as national highways are concerned, we just go to your proof, please, page 29.
Is that real page 29 or PDF?
It's real page, sorry, I've got the proofs in hard copy.
On there.
You've got two tables, well actually four tables dealing with the northbound off slip, yes. A404 and southbound off slip. It's right, isn't it? As a matter of fact, in all the managed and unmanaged scenarios, there would be an improvement over the do nothing.
What, on the A4? Yes.
The A404 slips, whether they're northbound or southbound.
There are betterments, yes.
And indeed, some are better with the unmanaged.
Yes.
Yes. So in terms of the significance of the improvement, the benefit is not, is it, sensitive to the success of the OMP or the travel plan?
No, it is sensitive to it. The degrees of the reductions reduce because there's less traffic associated with the sorry, let me just do that the other way around. In the unmanaged scenario, there's more traffic associated with film studios, so that any reductions aren't as great.
And just a point of clarification, this isn't a trick question. I just wanted to understand the position. The statement of common ground that we've all been referring to is 5A, which is a 5th of December statement of common ground.
Is this the one with National Highway?
Yes. Just wondered whether there was an updated one.
No.
There isn't.
Sorry, was it dated the 5th? Was it after?
The one in the core documents is. So just.
If that's what the date is, yes, that would be the date. There was only
Was there only one?
There was only one statement of common ground with National Highways, but the timing of that is they agreed that with us after they'd signed off the revised model.
That's
Let me just check if that's okay.
Sorry, so this isn't a trick question.
No,
I've established what we have, only because there's reference in it to 1.9. NHR currently reviewing it, the new updated future year VISIM models. This new modelling is anticipated to be agreed in advance of the opening of the inquiry.
Oh. Yes, it was signed on the 5th of December. And what reference was there, sorry?
1.9.
But they subsequently signed off.
This isn't a chat. I just
no.
This,
yes,
the inspector has before
correct.
her a statement of common ground which includes 1.9. So
It does. That's
just so that when it gets to the Secretary of State level, there is clarity as to what the common ground position is. But this is the only statement of common ground to date, although they have signed off the modelling.
They have signed off the modelling, yes.
Okay, just want to understand.
It's in the correspondence, Madam, that I believe is in front of you, but I'll have to look. Yeah. Can I confirm that to you rather than waste time?
Yeah.
I think it's certainly in all the submissions that were unfortunately made before Christmas, but I'll have to double check that it's in evidence as well. Yeah.
Okay, then can we move just to the site servicing arrangements, please? We can agree, can't we, that whether spaces within a development are publicly owned or not, they should be safe and designed to be safe.
No problem with that, yes.
Good. And that's an integral part of the design process, isn't it? Whether it's highways, roads or access, or indeed other elements of the development.
It needs to be operated safe. It needs to have the ability to be operated safely, yes.
Yeah. And the reason why the focus should be on design is because it minimises the risk of human error, doesn't it, in the operation of premises?
I would always say design, yes, is a key function of that, but there are other ways that certain things can be controlled safely.
Well, there are other ways, but the emphasis on design minimises, doesn't it, the risk of human error?
Yeah.
Yes, good. And in terms of safety, where one is also seeking to encourage and optimise non-car modes, there is a greater need to ensure a safe environment, isn't there?
Yes.
And an environment which is perceived to be safe.
Yes.
Good. Now, if we go to your proof, please, paragraph 11.7, page 69. You have that?
Sorry, I'm getting it.
That's right.
I'm in the document, yes.
You have it? Page 69, paragraph 11.7.
Yes,
You've got the AM and peak hour HGV trips. You don't have the number of daily trips, do you?
No.
They're set out. What is the number of daily trips derived from the TRIX data for this site?
I can work it out from these numbers, but it will just take me a minute because I think that the data was over a 16-hour day. So I've got you've got the AM and PM peak hour figures there, and then you've got the other figures that would go on top of it for each hour. So you can work it out from
Yeah, I
those
mean, what
numbers.
is the source of these figures in the first instance?
It's the agreed TRIX information. So it's from the same source as the agreed the agreed traffic, and this is HGVs, not OGVs.
Well, let's just look at, I think in terms of that information, can we look up CD 1-228 and E 1228E?
Sorry, could you give me that reference again?
So it's in volume 1 of the core documents, 228E.
Yes, I'm in the document.
Right.
1228E, little e. It's volume 4 of the ES. 3 of 3, which has TRIX data. And I think if you go within that to PDF 21.
Ironically for me, it worked quickly.
Right. Yes, PDF 21 on the survey data. This is Shepperton survey data.
Yep.
13th of July 2011. Yeah.
Okay.
It says TRIX 7.8.1. That's it, yeah. And there's a table there, madam, and it's got, and you'll see data proportions in percentages, OGV 1, 75%, OGV 2, 25%. And this is for that day. When across the day, in terms of OGVs, the total was 146.
Yes.
Of which 75% were OGV 1 and 25% OGV 2. OGV 2, the larger lorries, but OGV 1 still effectively lorries and rigid lorries.
No, it's anything over 3.5 tons.
Yeah, which can include
Lorries.
yes, yeah.
There's some vans in there and things like that. Long wheelbase transits fall into this category.
Then if we also go to PDF 40,
but as you've taken me to this, I think as well I've comment that's a 12-hour period, and you've only got 146 movements in total. So it's quite small.
Yeah. Right.
But anyway, sorry, carry on.
Then go to 40.
Yes.
Which is the, I think, the survey date on the 30th of August 2013. We can see there.
Yes.
That day there were 66 across the day.
Yes.
Then I think the third, which is the source of your figures, is PDF 62.
Yes.
where there were 81 across the day.
Yep.
At a studios which was half the size of what is proposed at Marlow. You go to PDF 14, you can see the size of Shepperton at the date of the.
I'm not going to dispute that with you, but the numbers, all of these numbers are very low in terms of the hourly numbers of larger vehicles.
But in terms of the number of vehicles, just agree the facts. Those are the numbers which should be potentially doubled at Marlow Film Studio.
I'd accept that Marlow Film Studio should be more like that, the original figure of the 166, and that's not going to be far off my figures. I mean, I could work them out for you, but you know, I'm not worried if it's 120 to 160, that sort of range, because over a 12-hour day, it's a very low number of HGVs per hour.
And quite obviously, it varies significantly depending on what's happening on the site on any given day, doesn't it?
Yes.
Good. And those HGVs could, again, depending on what is happening at the studios on any given day, be focused on a particular access route within the studios, couldn't they?
They could be, but again, HGV movements are strictly controlled. They're given times to arrive and depart, so they're managed, and the route of them is managed as well, as set out in the SMP. Sorry, the site management.
Yes, and we can agree this much, can't we? As far as the reversing manoeuvre of HGVs are concerned, that is one of those which poses greatest risk to other users of the space, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And in terms of we take up Mr. Tester's proof, please.
You might have to bear with me. This is the one that takes a long time to upload. Yes, I'm in.
Good. Figure 22 on page 98.
Yes.
In terms of servicing the sound stages shown on the eastern or towards the eastern boundary of the site, those would all require effectively a reversing in manoeuvre, wouldn't they?
They would, yes. So you've got 4 cul-de-sacs where you would need to manage HGVs going to and from those doors.
Yeah, and they would be reversing in, wouldn't they?
They would be reversing in, yeah.
Yeah.
Very easy to manage because you'd close those cul-de-sacs for the limited amount of time you're reversing the vehicles.
Well, it's not just the cul-de-sacs, is it? Because you have to reverse in. You have to reverse up and down the.
You've got to reverse round.
road.
You've got to reverse round the corner as well, but
Yeah,
it's still
good.
very, very limited area of the site, and it's easily managed.
Good. I think that's all I had for you, Mr. Dix. Thank you very much, man.
I didn't expect you to finish that quickly. By surprise. Any interested parties objecting, wish to ask questions on highways? Okay. To spare, do you want to just come up and sit next to? Well, you could just sit next to you, Mr. Tester. Morning. And I'm really sorry, but could you remind me of your names again so I can? You might just need to turn that one on.
Okay. My name is Joe McNeil.
Mr. McNeil.
Mr. McNeil is fine. You just give me a minute to just lay a few things out.
Yep.
They're questions.
Okay, as long as the questions.
Yeah, they are questions.
Excellent.
Good morning, Mr. Dix.
Good morning. Well, probably just good afternoon, actually.
Or good afternoon, yes.
We've drifted over.
My, how the time flies when you're having fun. Could I take you to CD2 105R, which is the SSTA Appendix EE. It's the site management plan.
DD2 105
R,
R
yes.
for Romeo. Yep.
Correct, yeah, it's the site management plan. And Appendix A, which is the extracts from the design statement. And specifically, I'd like to point you to 6.11.3, which is all about site mobility.
Sorry, my PDF's just not opening up for some reason. I don't know why.
Sorry, was it 6.11.3
Correct, yes.
on them? I'm sort of going to help get it.
I just don't understand it. I'm clicking it and it's not doing anything.
I think you'll find it's Appendix A.
It's okay. I'm just going to shut my whole PDF down and start it up again. Okay, CD2.
Yeah, I'm sorry to drag you through all this.
No, you don't need to apologise. Where are we? What?
'23.
I am there. Thank you.
And I'd also like to draw your attention to PDF page 59 in CDO2 105A, Appendix E, which is essentially the SSTA main text.
Sorry, could you just get that reference?
Yes,
again?
of course.
CD
Yeah, CDO2 105A.
105A.
Yeah.
Do-
Appendix E, please.
No problem.
So it's the SSTA main text. I'm being as precise as I can. So
It's very
Right.
helpful. Thank you.
okay, so very simply, on page 59, there is a.
Sorry, I'm just going to ask you to just bear with me to get there because
Okay, of course.
I've got the
I'm sorry.
I've got the first reference that you did open.
Yeah, the second one is important because the two are the basis of my question to you.
That's just
Thank you.
bear with me.
I do apologise for the detail, but at this stage, I've got no other way of asking the question.
When you say page 59 on CD2 105R, do you mean PDF page 59? Text
So
for health and safety.
BDO2 105A, Madam, Appendix E is the page 59.
Sorry, you're page 59, not right. Okay.
Two
PDF
references.
page 59.
Thank you.
Sorry, the SSTA has just taken a while for me to unload, so I will be with you in a
Okay.
second. I've got the other documents still open.
So I should be at 9.64 in PDF CD2 105A.
It's
Paragraph number 9.64.
Table 21 is the
Table, a bit further on.
21.
Table 20 or 22?
21.
Table
on-
21.
Yes, on page 59A. 59, sorry.
So we're paginated page 59 then.
PDF page
PDF
59.
67.
Okay, do you have the table?
I am there.
Thank you very much. Okay.
I've got it. Yes.
So I'm going to ask you, Mr. Dix, how the statements that are made on page 59 and the statements that are made in 6.113 are able to be squared. So could we start, please, with the last paragraph in the comments column on PDF page 59, in which it says this route does not appear adequate to cater for the two-way movements of vehicles. So we're talking about the core access,
Yep.
the shared access down to the Westhorpe Park and Westhorpe House, and also which intersects with the public right-of-way leading from east to west. Okay, the comment or the response from the developer states that, for the record, this is a minor access road to residential units, and in line with the DFT's MFS guidance, it would not be appropriate to design this road to accommodate the occasional large vehicle, as this could encourage higher vehicle speeds. So I want those two to stand together. I think they imply that there is a low expectation of heavy traffic down that core route. Now, against, if we go to paragraph 2 on 6.113, which is on the left-hand side of the road layout schematic,
Yep.
in which it states, the drive to Westhorpe House is retained to provide access to Westhorpe House, Westhorpe Park and Plot 2A. The internal road layout is designed to minimise the use of the Westhorpe House Drive. This existing road is enhanced by widening it to 6.5 metres, providing lighting and framing it with ecological green buffers of visual interest. The increase in width will help mitigate the impact of any limited anticipated increase and size of traffic using this road. How do you square those two statements, those two points of view?
Yeah. No, that's fine. I understand the question, and I don't think we need to go there. But within my evidence in section 11, we took the table from the STAA, which was CD2 105, and kept going with the columns. Does that make sense, ma'am? That we'd actually, because that table was taken forward into the committee report, and it was then been taken forward into evidence. So we've moved things forward slightly. But I think that to answer your question, I probably don't need to go to that table, because if I take you to CD2 105, you can see the orange route as it comes through the site there. That's length as it goes through the film studios would be widened to 6.5. You've then got the drive. It then would re-pick up the existing drive to Westhorpe House, and that's when the road would narrow down. So you've got two sections of the road. So as it goes through the film studios, it's wider. As it becomes an access, I'm assuming to your residents, and do correct me if I'm wrong, it would narrow back down again to what it is now.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the narrowing down. The problem that I have is the fact that it is a shared access and that it's going to get considerably busier than it is now. Would you accept that we could reasonably expect, I think, based on the traffic movements that have been talked about, that we're going to see a significant increase in vehicular traffic along that central shared access road? One of the receptors, I suppose, to use a planning speak, would logically be the multi-storey car park.
You will get increased traffic down the road.
Thank you.
To the second multi-storey car park, yes.
Yeah, okay, that's helpful. Thank you very much. Okay. That was question 1. Question 2 relates to CD2 105R, which again is the SSTA Appendix EE. And I'd like to take you to page 15, which is section 5 on management.
sorry, what document was that? Was that CD?
It is CD2 105R for
Oh,
Romeo.
sorry, that is
Yeah.
my mistake. I'm looking in the wrong document.
It is the site management
You're,
plan. Yes.
no, you did give me the right reference. I then looked at the wrong document and had got the wrong heading.
It's
I'm with you
okay.
now. So yes, sorry. Yes. CD2 105R title
Yes.
management on there.
Yes, it's page 15.
Yeah.
So my second question is, how can it be guaranteed that there will be no queuing back to the public highway?
What in terms of, oh, that's between the security gate and the site access roundabout. That's because of the distance between it and how long it takes to process people coming in. As you've probably heard me talk about this morning, in terms of the car park uses and things like that, people would be booked in and HGVs will be booked in, and it's been designed to ensure that there's not blocking back to the highway.
So the engineering half of my brain, I've always been a bit pessimistic, and I've never really been let down by that. In a worst case scenario, you've got quite a few people arriving for work within seconds, as I think it's been established, from the A404. They're coming through the traffic lights. They're coming onto the site access roundabout. They've got priority as they're turning right, coming around the roundabout, coming onto site.
Yeah.
Let's just say there are a considerable number of them. The distance from the barrier into the site back onto the site access roundabout does seem quite short to me. How is that volume of traffic going to be dealt with? How will you? I'm not persuaded that you can guarantee that there won't be any backlog onto the 4155.
I haven't got a distance in front of me to give you between the two, so
Sure.
I'd have to look at that.
Okay.
You know,
Do you take my point though? Do you,
yeah,
would you accept that it's a fair point to make?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Yes,
I apologise.
no, you don't. There's no need to apologise. It's a fair question, and I will answer it. So, yeah. So we will get you the distance. When we've designed this, we've looked at this quite closely, and obviously worked with the scheme architect, who's designed a lot of other studios. We need that to work just as the same as you. There's no desire from us to have any issues there and to create any problems with getting onto the site. So we've located that gate, we think, for that security barrier far enough into the site, so there won't be a problem.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
But I think it's, to be fair, ma'am, I will get a distance for that.
I think the site layout. I'm going to move on. I'm going to ignore that question, please. Excuse me. It was just about how in the 8 metre sections of the road, internal road network.
Yeah.
The comment has been stated that HGVs in parts of the road network will not be able to pass each other, which I assume is because of the tightness of the radius.
It's all yes, you're exactly right. It's all to do with the bends.
I wanted to make sure I didn't misunderstand.
Yes, and I know that was a question, but let me explain it to you if that's okay. What we've looked at with that is, as you've heard, our view is the HGV numbers are relatively low per hour that we need to deal with, and we know where people are being booked in and where where they're going to and from. Where you have got that instance, you can actually see to where the other HGV is coming.
Yes.
So you tell the driver to give way, and one thing we've looked at, and there's in my evidence, there is space to put give way lines to actually beef that up and inform the drivers that to stop here and wait to let the vehicle come in the other way. So on the 8 metre stretch, there's no problem passing it on the bends.
I accept that. Thank you. Could I please take you to the Stage 1 road safety audit, which is in Appendix AA of the SSTA.
I've got that as CD 105, CD2 105Y. Why?
I'm sorry, I haven't got that. I've just got the document in front of me.
That's the draft OMP. This part right there.
So what we're looking for the road safety audit, man. And I think
Yes, it's the, I've got it labelled here as the stage 1 road safety audit,
it's
and page 7.
it's CD2 105Y, which should be Appendix U to AA. Yes, there's a number of different appendices in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have it, page
Yeah.
7? Okay.
Which page you want me to look at?
Page 7, please.
Just
Mr. Dix-
sorry, just for the inspector, that's page 185 of the PDF. Or 5A even. God, that's really good, me getting numbers wrong. We're both with you.
It does, yes. I'm sorry, I should have said that. Are you there, Mr. Dix?
I am, yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Are you familiar with Sheepridge Lane?
I am, yes.
Have you driven it?
Yes.
Okay, great. Would you agree with the road safety audits advice here that it contains advisory signs which mark it out as unsuitable for heavy goods vehicles?
Yes.
Thank you.
I mean, yeah.
Okay,
That's a fact, yeah.
yeah, that's great. I'm just trying to establish that. Have you driven Westhorpe Farm Lane?
I haven't driven it. I've walked on it,
Okay,
so I know the road. Yeah.
perhaps even better.
Yeah.
Would you agree that that's not entirely suitable for HGV traffic?
Not in its current form, no. It's not entirely suitable, no. It's a little bit different from Sheepridge Lane, but it's not entirely suitable, no.
Is there anywhere within the site mobility plan that indicates that that road is going to be changed by way of design or construction to make it more suitable for HGV?
But Westhorpe Farm Lane's not an access for heavy goods vehicles, is it, to the site, because they've come off the site access roundabout?
Okay. So in the mobility statement 6.11.3,
Let me get back to that for you.
it's stated that the bridge link ensures that any internal movements to and from the backlot are managed within the scheme rather than using Westhorpe Farm Lane. I'm reading from the...
Yeah.
Okay. So does that mean that there won't be any HGV traffic down Westhorpe Farm Lane?
That's
film related?
Yeah, they should come in from the site access, from the new access, yes.
So should...
Well, they will do, because they'll be, as I've said, sorry, should was not the right word to use. HGVs will be told to come in via the site access roundabout.
Okay, so there won't be any HGV traffic, film-related HGV traffic down Westhorpe Farm Lane?
No, that's not what's proposed.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you very much. I have no further questions. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Mr. McNeil. And could you remind me of your name again, please, sir?
Yes, if I can work out.
Let you just pull the switch towards you.
Oh, cheers. Yeah, my name is Richard Owen. I'm also a resident in the area. My question has been partly covered by the previous questions. Mr. Dick, Good afternoon. I'll refer to only one document, which is the draft site management plan, which is reference CD 2105R, which has already been discussed briefly just now.
Just,
And
if you just bear with me, because I closed it and moved around.
Yeah, of course.
I'll get that up and then
No, of course.
I'll only have to get one document up, so we should be not delayed.
Okay. And if you look at page 5, PDF page 5,
Just,
figure 3,
sorry, just bear with me just a second.
that's fine.
Right, I'm in. Sorry, what was the reference?
It's page 5 and it's figure 3.
Yes.
Now that diagram is replicated also as attached to page 19, which is Appendix A, which is a slightly clearer illustration.
Yeah,
Appendix A, which
yeah,
is
that's an
immediately
extract.
after page 19.
Sorry to talk over you. It's an extract from the DAS, so yes, it's repeated. Yeah.
Yes, correct. And if we could refer to that one. You said in a previous answer that site vehicles will not be allowed to use Westhorpe Farm Lane to go to plots 4 and 5. Now, if you look at that illustrative diagram there in Appendix A, you'll see there are 2 ways to get to plots 4 and 5. You could either go the official way, which I think you call the official way, which is a long and circuitous route through the film studio site with lots of bends and curves and probably running into other traffic coming the other direction. Or you can look at Westhorpe Farm Lane and whiz straight down Westhorpe Lane, and you can attempt to drive to plots 4 and 5. Now, you said in the previous answer that drivers will be instructed not to do that. Now, I've lived there for some time and I know what instructions drivers follow and what they don't, particularly since the entrance to Westhorpe Farm Lane is quite misleading, because for 50 yards, it's quite wide. It's been widened deliberately to provide access to the running track. So if you're driving a heavy goods vehicle and you see that wide opening, you're going to turn into that opening, go 50 yards and think, oops, it's a narrow farm lane. So what do? They either proceed down that narrow farm lane, as heavy goods vehicles do regularly, or they try and reverse back onto the 4155. I can see nothing in this draft site management plan or any of the other documents presented to this inquiry which show any form of mitigation to prevent that happening, except your statement that drivers will be instructed not to do it.
Yes. Sorry, you'd finished. I didn't want to talk over you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think we've got to realise that in the future there'd be a big new site access roundabout to the film studios, and HGVs, when they come to the site, as I've said, they're booked in. They're given allocated slots, so that they've got to arrive as best as they can around those slots, because you can't be perfect, but they have to book in. So to book in, they've got to go to the security, and then they're told the route to go. So they've got to go in the main site entrance, and I'm sure, with signing and things like that will go with the access roundabout. It's going to clearly state, if the film studios gets consent, that is the entrance to use. And if it was a real concern, and it's something, Mum, we haven't put in, but if it's a real concern, I'd be more than happy to discuss with Buckinghamshire if we can have any other signs that say, no access to film studios and things like that, to address the concern that you're raising. I don't think it will happen, but just to be on the safe side, I think, in the context of us building that access roundabout, we'll be doing a lot of work in that area. We need to do a signage review. That's something we can look at.
And presumably not only heavy goods vehicles, but there'll be a number of cars which will be driving to the plots 4 and 5.
It could just say no access to the film studios.
We have recent examples of when Thames Water were having to run shuttle waste trucks to the sewage works in Little Marlow. Little Marlow also had a sign up there saying this to these vehicles, this is not the route, the access route to dump stuff at Thames Water sewage works. And yet inevitably trucks were going down that road. Signs, simple signs saying not for heavy goods vehicles don't work.
But I think if we've got one, you've got assigned new access, or you would have. I keep talking like it's going to happen. You would have assigned new access to the film studios, and with the new roundabout, it's going to be quite clear that that's the route to go. You've told drivers when they've got to arrive and the fact they've got to book in, and that's where the booking in is for HGVs, and you know that's also the access route to the 2 car parks that you know we discussed at the front and the rear. Plus, if we put potentially some temporary signing on that road, that's what we can do to manage that. And I think you know if beyond that, in terms of we are offering quite extensive monitoring with things like that. That's something that can be monitored, and obviously if it is happening, the film studios won't want that to happen because the system's not set up for it to happen. If people are trying to sneak around the back, for want of a better word, it negates the management of the film studios, and the film studios are going to stamp down on that naturally because of the controlled environment. So what I'm saying, I think, is I do appreciate your concern, but I think there are things that we can certainly do to manage that.
If a heavy goods vehicle does go down Westthorpe Farm Lane, there is nowhere for that vehicle to turn around until presumably it gets to plot 5. Is that correct?
It's got to go a long way down then. But
go all the way down.
We can only do so much to control this. I don't think any HGVs associated with the film studios will go down there because they'll be told not to. And I think that's what we can do. I can't do any more than that and when I say me, I'm talking on behalf of my client. They can't do any more than that in terms of, you know, what we're doing to try and manage our vehicles to and from the site.
Okay, well, thank you for that. As to say, it is a continuing concern for residents there from past experience.
Yes, and I think, you know, as I said to you again, we do appreciate it, and I think there are things we can look at doing. And because the site management plan is subject to a condition, we can obviously pick things up in that, can't we?
Thank you both. Yeah.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much. Just a few from me. So you might not know the answer to this, but how quick would those 2 crossings change? So like sometimes you get to those crossings and you can be stood there for ages. Other times I've barely unclipped my pedal from my bike and it's already changed.
You try and give pedestrians and cyclists the priority, which is easy to do on somewhere, for example, like Bogmore Lane, if I use that, where you're just crossing a single road. What you'd have to do at Westthorpe is, because you have got obviously a lot of traffic movements and it's part of wider signals, you would potentially have to wait. But, you know, if you look at full cycle times for signals on that, you know, you'd be talking something like 90 seconds for everything to rotate around. So that could be your absolute worst. And that would be you arriving just after it was the time to offer it.
Okay, so worst case around 90 seconds.
Yes.
Okay.
But obviously the average would be half of that. So, and I think now it's always the balance then between how long do you have to actually wait to cross the road safely now, because you're not necessarily going to arrive, are you, and be able to cross.
Okay, so I'm a freelance costume designer going to work at Marlow Film Studios, right? Just imagine. I've always driven to the other studios because that's just the way I operate. But I could travel on public transport. What will this do to make me change my mind? how will it make me take
Well-
a sustainable transport option?
Yeah, a big part of the travel plan is actually making people aware of what their options are. And we've found a lot of, obviously, it's very important for any kind of development to actually let people know what their options are. Because if you have always driven, why would you do something different? But if you know there's another option, and you're not necessarily booked in. If you were a costume designer and you're not bringing equipment to the site and things like that, you're not necessarily going to be offered a parking space anyway. So you're going to be told potentially you can't park, and here are all your other options to get there.
Okay, and then just going back to this modelling again. So you've not extended the VISIM model beyond because you don't think there's going to be any implications on Marlow Town Centre going that way, because there's only 20 vehicles or so from the development from the AM peak.
That's partly it, but also we had done the individual junction models,
Yeah.
and why, except they're not calibrated, you can look at the difference, but sort of with and without the development. And I know, that's not a true comparison to the full queues, but it does give you an indication that the development's traffic is not having a sort of a material impact on those junctions operation. So it's a combination of things.
Yeah. Okay. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it for me. Okay, thank you. Back to you, Mr. White.
I have 6 matters I want to ask you about in re-examination. Matter 1. Can I take you back to the series of questions that my learned friend asked you about the modal split? Do you remember that?
I do, yes.
Do you remember overall? I want to ask you, frankly, about your judgment in the light of Mr. Bird's questions. You accepted that there was no existing studio, which shows evidence of 60%. Do you remember that?
I do, yes.
Yeah. Can I just ask you, in relation to the approach to vision and validate, do you think it's right or wrong that in 2025 there should be a 60% target or not?
The targets that we set for vision and validate, they should be ambitious. You need to be ambitious in what you're putting forward. Otherwise, why are you following a different approach to, for example, manage and monitor or something like that? You're trying to achieve a real sea change in terms of, if I can phrase it that way, in terms of how people travel. So inherently, you should be ambitious. And ambitious within a reasonable level, because we are seeing, some of the other film studios examples we talked through, and some of the other more commercial schemes we talked through as well, do indicate and that you can push down towards that level. So I think we do need a degree of realism in this, but I think that's there. But we are trying to do something different, and I think we always need to remember the other half of the vision-led approach is you are constantly validating against what you're trying to achieve. And
I was going to ask you about that. It's as it says in the tin, vision and validate. Now, can I ask you, in relation to validate, what do you say that means?
I'd split that into two things, because I always see this as it's the travel plan and the operational management plan operating together. So the operational management plan, in a way, is an easier one, because that really comes down to how much traffic have you got arriving and leaving the site at the key hours. So that's very easy to monitor. A permanent traffic loop on the site entrance will do that for you, and that can be monitored. And because of the nature of the operation and the fact that a large number of people don't arrive at peak times, there's always shifts in how the site's operating to do that, and those restrictions will be passed on to those obviously coming to the site to do productions and things like that. So that's one element of it, and the other element of it is you monitor the travel plan. You monitor the way people are arriving at the site, because with anything with travel plans, they always need some tweaks and adjustments as they come through, to make sure that they're achieving the targets that you've set. So you have to monitor them, you know, to see what's worked, potentially what hasn't worked, what you need to adjust, what you need to change. And that's all part of that process.
Now, can I then ask you, would you take the view in your judgment, if one has set the target of 84%, which reflected the census of 2011, in your judgment, would that be a credible vision and validate approach or not?
No, that's predict and provide, because you're accepting the status quo. You're saying this is what would happen if I did nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean in terms of trying to manage the traffic and encourage you know, the use of non-car modes. So if you didn't do anything, you'd achieve, the census is telling us you'd achieve 84.2% anyway, because you know we always get, not everybody drives to work for whatever reason. So
Can I also ask, we now know what the proposal, I think it's common ground that the conditions in the section 106 require a submission of a travel plan and approval,
yes,
submission of an OMP and approval,
yes,
and effectively an agreement sits before the inspector, which will have, we saw in Schedule 1, the various targets.
yes.
I want to ask you, in the light of my learned friend's question, do you know of another film studio's current that hitting 60%? Do you know of a complete film studios that basically has that OMP travel plan and a section 106, which in your judgment endorses a vision and validate approach or not?
I'm not. There are travel plans in existence, and some of them, as we've heard, you know, have got similarly ambitious targets in them. So, you know, the 62% at Warner Brothers and things like that is, you know, it's not significantly different from where we are. I'm not aware that any have got operational management plans. So that second strand isn't there.
Thank you. Now, second issue, car sharing. I want to ask you about this. In your judgment, is the attempt or not to encourage those to car share? I mean, just deal with this practically. If you car share, are you retaining the same level of car journeys if you don't car share? Got two people, you and me.
No, if we were both driving to work and then we car share, you've gone from 2 cars to 1.
And to what extent, in your judgment, is that an approach which is in accordance with the NPPF or contrary to the NPPF if you encourage car sharing?
It's in accordance with the NPPF because it's part of making sites sustainable.
Thank you. Next issue, the Volvo Bridge. And my learned friend put questions to you about the proposed bridge adding to distances, which you accepted. Do you recall
Yes,
that?
I do accept that.
Tell me, is it physically possible, in your judgment, to be DDI compliant and not increase distances? How would you do that, please, from the existing?
The only way you can do it is to add a separate set of stairs or something like that, to give people an option of not using the ramps. But that would then only cater for, you know, able-bodied, I shouldn't use that term, those who aren't mobility impaired. That's all pedestrians, that's all that caters for.
And my learned friend put the proposition to you about the increase in distance. I want to take it to the next stage. What is your judgment as to whether it will, the distances that Mr. Tester sets out in his evidence, is it your view that those increased distances with the new Volvo Bridge will discourage those using that route, or will have no effect, or will increase those using that route? What do you say?
I don't think it'll have any detrimental effect because it's seen almost as part of the structure. And I also think the majority of people understand why there are ramps so that everybody can use them. And so I don't think it does discourage people. It can't, I'll be honest, it can't, in my view anyway, it can't possibly be right that we don't make something DDA compliant so everyone can use it just because there's a little bit of inconvenience potentially in an increased travel distance. And I think most people think like that.
Thank you. New topic, topic 4, entry path radius and deflection. Do you remember you asked questions on that?
I do, yes.
Just tell me currently on the interchange, the Westport interchange, how many arms do not meet the standards in terms of their radius and deflection, please?
All 4 of them.
And again, marrying that all 4 to, frankly, the accident records, which Mr. Tester has paraded in Appendix A. What is your view as to the extent that the failure of those 4 arms currently to meet standards are having an effect or not on the ground, on safety and accidents on that roundabout?
Well, if they were, if I turn that question around slightly, if they were to be having an impact, you would see accident clusters, and there aren't any accident clusters occurring.
Thank you. Next point, topic 5, relates to the modelling. And do you remember the line of questioning about what the modelling's been done and whether it's deficient or not?
Yes.
Now, I just want to ask you this. Mr. Bird took you to existing survey information currently. Can I go to the future as well and ask you, in your judgment, having looked at the modelling, what is the contribution of the film studios and AMP? In essence, I'm asking the question again, but in the light of Mr. Bird's questions. Do you remember the inspector asked you yesterday?
Yes.
From the predicted future, what is the contribution in general terms of the film studio traffic travelling west in the AMP on the A4155? What is the quantum of vehicles we're talking about?
It's less than 20 vehicles.
Thank you. And again, could I ask you to take up your, please, your paragraph 419 in your proof of evidence, please, page 26. In actuality, Mr. Fraser will tell us the PDF number to assist you and the inspector.
Give me a sec, I'm not, I've closed it after everything. Guide on it. Where am I going?
Give me a second. PDF 27.
Tell me when you've got there, Mr. Dix, please.
Yes, I'm on PDF 27.
Now, I'm not going to ask you about the first bullet point because I get accused of giving evidence when I make reference to MOVA or mover, as I like calling it. Do I call it MOVA? I can't
You call it
remember.
MOVA, I call it mover,
Yeah.
but
I have the same problems with Mr. Chodder Borovitz. Anyway, I know I always think that I always think it's Dodo, but there we go. Hope he's not listening. Anyway, second bullet point, please, Mr. Dix. Secondly, to ensure that the visit model included the implications of the use of the pedestrian crossing on Little Marlow Road. Just for clarity on the chronology, when the application was first put in, what was the proposal on Bodmore Lane, please? The crossing.
there was nothing.
No. What is there currently on the ground? The inspector will have seen this with you and Mr. Tester on the site visit.
There's a pelican crossing.
So, and the proposal now?
It's for signal control toucan crossing.
Okay. And broadly, what does the modelling show the consequence of the change from effectively what was proposed to the toucan crossing? What effect does it have on traffic flows in your judgment, please?
The effects it has on traffic flows is when you've got the children going to school and it's a controlled crossing, drivers are being very polite and stopping to let them across. Whereas with the toucan crossing, yes, they might have to wait for a short period, but it to use a technical term, it platoons those crossing together, so it then allows the traffic to flow through as well. So you manage the traffic both ways. You've got the children crossing under a red light, which is safer, or anybody using the crossing, but it platoons the vehicles together, so it improves the traffic flow.
So in terms of the April 24 surveys and modelling that my learned friend took you to, what is in position? What was the modelling done on the assumption in relation to that crossing?
It was in its current form.
And as a consequence, broadly, does the modelling that's been done now to take into account the second bullet point show a betterment or worsening of the queuing on the A4155 west of Westford, please?
It's a significant betterment.
So what do you say in the light of that to the proposition that the absence of modelling with the general improvement between April 24 and the November 25 what do you say to proposition that frankly, the queues that Mr. Bird took you to are likely to still exist or might well be worse? What do
Can
you
you
say?
repeat that question again?
Yes.
Sorry, I was taking.
No, sorry. What do you say? Mr. Bird identified queuing
Yes,
in the April 24 surveys. You said that what is shown, the modelling taken place in November 25, as I understand it, you just said is showing betterment in terms of queuing. Is that right or wrong?
yeah, that's betterment in terms of queuing within the VISIM model. So it's Westhorpe and down to Bodmore Lane.
Absolutely. But what do you say in the light of that? What is the likelihood with the update and the imposition of a junction now, which broadly you said the modelling shows as betterment, is showing better in terms of queuing? What do you say the consequence will be, therefore, on the junctions to the west?
I think what will happen with the junctions to the west, I don't think there was a material impact on their operation anyway. They are town centre junctions that are affected by a number of different things, but I don't think the film studios made any difference. By smoothing out the traffic flow towards them, you shouldn't be contributing to the very peaky nature of the occasional queuing that occurs.
Thank you. Final topic, please, about the internal design of the development. And my learned friend asked you whether the proposal should be designed to be safe. You accepted that proposition.
Yes.
What is your judgment, having heard Mr. Tester's evidence and your view, what do you say about whether that proposition is satisfied or not satisfied by what is proposed by your clients in this matter, please?
I believe the site will operate safely, and with the focus has gone down now into a very small area, whereas there were wider comments being made, and it's only HGBs reversing. It's the 5 cul-de-sacs that can easily be managed when you've got vehicles reversing into them. And it's not something that's going to occur every day, because it's only going to be maybe when the sound stages are being fitted out and when they're being taken down, things like that. So it's not an everyday occurrence, which is why it can be managed. It's no different than you get certain retail uses or Costco buildings that I do a lot of work for, where because their deliveries are out of hours, they actually manage part of the car parks and do them in the car parks, and they run with no problem at all. And then by the time people are using that bit of the car park, it's back to being a car park. So it's a temporary arrangement for a short period.
Do you know what the doors leading to a sound stage are called in the industry?
I don't know. Elephants. There we go.
Thank you, Mark. No, I'm delighted you said that. You just won me a lot of money. It wasn't for the inspector, it was for someone. We'll have that debate over lunch. Right, let me just finish. No, thank you very much. Don't apologise. Thank you. Unlike Friday, I'm first time I won a bet this week. Next point, Mr. Dix, on that same subject, just the Shepperton figures, you said in answer to Mr. Bird that they were very low, but you didn't expand on that in terms of HGVs. And I just want to understand what led you, why did you say to Mr. Bird and answer to him that those figures were very low? What's the context of that comment, please?
It's because, you know, when you look at HGV movements and whether they're going to conflict, you look at how many are actually occurring in an hour. You break the day down. So if you've got, say, at worst 160 movements over a 12-hour day, you actually look at when those movements occur. And you know, that's 160 movements in and out. So it's only 80 HGVs, because they do come in and leave generally in the same day. You break that down into the hour, and that's when you start to look at potential conflicts and things like that. If it's not here that we would have a limit, as you get some retail units or just even distribution centres that you've only got so many doors they can come up to. This is more a practical limit of what needs to come in and what indeed does come in. It's not something that the sound stages, for example, as I said, you're not going to get HGV movements to them day in, day out. It's only when they're being fitted out or dismantled that you're going to get things like that.
Thank you. And you were taken to Mr. Tester's plans, you know, the one that identifies in his evidence the area, page 98. Can I just ask you to take up that, please?
Just waiting for it to open. as you go, painful
While,
for me.
while you're waiting for it to open, you said in your qualification experience, you've been advising the House of Fraser on their logistics centre outside Coventry. Is that
Yes.
correct? Does that centre receive logistics or not?
Yes,
Have you done retail work in your professional career?
yes.
Just tell me, are you still waiting for it to come up?
It's up now.
It's up now. I just wanted to ask, in the light of my learned friend's questions on the design, I just wanted your judgment. What is the judgment on the range of difficulty of the manoeuvre he put to you that basically, and to be fair, he's right, that vehicles will need to effectively reverse round the corner and then down the lane to access the sound studio? I just want to ask your judgment on the work you've done relating to HGV movements and reversing, which you accepted. What is your judgment on the range of difficulty of the manoeuvre that HGV drivers will be required to make, please?
I mean, reversing around the corner is a very standard manoeuvre. To make it increasingly safe, you make sure that the driver's on the inside of the turn so that they can see. And then if you do need to, which I think in this case we've already said, if you're using banksmen and barriers, they can then control the other side. So it's a very standard manoeuvre to reverse round like that. You think if you go into any service yard, you drive in, turn round and reverse on.
And do HGVs, are they required by law or not, or by health and safety? Do they make an audible alarm or not? Is that standard or not?
It's standard for them to make an audible alarm.
What?
It's only in circuit.
Bloody idiot, get out of the way.
They used to just beep. The modern ones say, I think they say something like caution vehicle reversing, and it's very loud sometimes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mum. That's my re-examination.
Thank you. Okay, we'll pause for lunch. It's coming up 2:15. We'll come back at 2:15. We're adjourned until then. Thank you. And you can rejoin your party.